Fine, yeah. Don't worry about it, all right.
Oh, and that was a good reminder
Let's be turning that off.
to shut that off, sorry.
Come on, she's sitting next to you.
Go ahead, thank you.
Good, you want to start from the beginning, Jason?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right, so 6:03, January 11th, gonna call the meeting to order, a roll call,
Tyler?
Here.
Jeff?
Yep.
John?
Here.
Deb? Andrew?
here,
All present.
all right, do we have a
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, agenda approved. Gail, we have no public forum, is that correct?
Nothing.
All right, and we are on to oral reports. Lindsay?
Carrie, you want to share the update? Maybe Gail has it up
Yeah,
there?
Gail has that. All right, so you have the numbers of where we started remotely. And then if you, Gail, if you scroll down, you'll see where we're gonna be starting next week. So we started at a high of 268 students, which was 17% of our student population. And Tuesday, the 19th, will be down to 128 students, which is 8% of our student population. We did have one student that has requested to go remotely today, so that changes that by, that would, our number changes by 1. So that's where we are right now. I think that, the other thing is, and this might come up later, when you look at the enrollment numbers, open enrollment stuff, we will have between this week and then next week, 10 new students starting. Like that have nothing to do with remote learning. They're just new students to our district. So that we couple that with 73 students or whatever that number is, around or mid-70s of what's returning. That brings its own thing now, because we're going to do our very best to do the mitigation. I mean, we'll have the face coverings and such, but we'll do our very best with that mitigation. But we are going to have a few more kids in the classroom now, so you can see that. I mean, you can see how the grade level, you can see the grade level numbers and how they're changing over time. So,
Would you mind scrolling up just to what we started with, just from a
260.
breakout? 6958. So the high school's been a higher number the whole.
they have always been higher.
I have a question, Carrie, if you don't. Are you
Of
done?
course,
Okay,
yeah.
Good time. Okay, this is just for an example's sake, right? But if you look down at our new numbers, January 19th, so when you were talking about mitigation, we have 10 new students, and are they, like off the top of your head, are they like throughout the district or?
Yes, they are. As a matter of fact, I can tell you right now, 1, 2, 3 of them are elementary students.
Mhm.
2 of them are intermediate students. And 5 of them are high school students. No middle school students at this point.
So the reason that I just mentioned that or asked that is because the last time when we were talking about it, we were looking at the different class sizes and stuff. And so like, I know in the elementary, we have somebody dedicated to that. And now that I see, I mean, good news, like, for example, second grade is down considerably.
Yeah, 3.
And I know that pushes the sizes up in other classes. So do we think this might change our approach in some cases to? Seems like a lot of people to have concentrated.
No, that's a
in
really good
class.
question. And I'm gonna ask Stacy, when you're speaking of the elementary, to speak to that, and or Ashley. I think building principals can speak to that.
Yeah.
How they are doing that specifically.
You have Stacy on there, Jason?
Yeah, Stacy, sorry.
I see Amy.
Stacy, are you there?
Yes. Can you, Deb, repeat your question specifically?
Yeah.
Hold on.
One second here, we gotta get speakers on.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I noticed that just from looking at these numbers, that we have more students coming into our district. And some of the numbers have decreased. For example, second grade, we only have 3 remote learners. And I know in elementary school, you guys talked about like having 1 teacher focus per grade. And if we take 1 teacher out of the equation, that would naturally raise the numbers in the other classrooms.
Mhm.
So with a number that low, I'm sorry, that's my opinion, that low, are we considering making adjustments to that so that we don't have such large classes for those in person?
So a couple things with that. First of all, I think right now my specific number is 4, maybe 5 that'll be remote learners when they come back. And in having the conversations, our 2nd grade is about 23 in a class. So our numbers aren't, we would have had, with 5 sections, we'd have had, really nice class sizes, I think. So that's one advantage for us. But, in talking with all of my grade level teachers and my remote teachers, they just felt like between the kiddos who quarantine and need to be on remote learning and those 5 dedicated remote teacher or learners, we really felt like they would be they're willing to take that slightly larger class size to make sure that our on-site teachers do not have to do both responsibilities.
Thank you.
And another thing,
Do we have 1 teacher handling 3 kids?
he's got 5, yes. And then he does all is, and I think that's one thing you also have to realize is anytime we have a kiddo who goes on quarantine and is a remote learner, they also enter his section. So that has varied anywhere from 5 students at one time to we've had up to 12 students in that room at that point. So, and that's a variable that I just can't predict of how many are going to be on remote. I think for us, go ahead.
What do you think a number would be too large for remote? If 3 is too small, in my mind, what would be too large if I was going to look at it in a realistic situation?
Well, I think Mrs. Hostetler in 1st grade and at one point Jeff in 2nd grade have both had up to 26 kiddos in between quarantine kiddos and dedicated remote learners. So, I think, basically because this is new and different, it's hard for me to set a hard and fast number and say it's this number because of the variables included. And I just, so I think was 26 a lot? Yes, it was.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to see, I wanted to understand what you're seeing. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I just wanted to understand your view.
Yeah, and so I think, like I said, I've had conversations with both the on-site teachers and the dedicated remote. We talked through lots of scenarios, especially as we moved into October and we had kids coming back and we moved to January and we've gone back to the board every time and said, what do we want to do? And, the remote teachers felt like trying to do 2 grade levels was really difficult with the amount of Zoom time that they are giving their kiddos. So in my building, the dedicated remote teachers, they do, and Andrew would have some experience with this. They have an hour Zoom meeting in the morning. They have a half-hour Zoom meeting in the afternoon, and then they do small group Zoom meetings for about an additional hour in the morning. So those kids are on screen quite a bit. Our kiddos at the K2 level just aren't as able to be as independent in their learning as you go up. As you even start to move to intermediate, that learning can be a little bit more independent. So I think that's one thing that as my teachers were trying to decide how would I do a first, like, for example, could we merge the 1st and 2nd grade remote learners? And that just didn't seem like a feasible solution for them with the planning and lesson development required.
To what Stacy said, I think it's important to know that that when she's talking about students on those Zooms, they have other things they're doing on top of that Zoom. That's just their whole group time together.
And I'll just say too, like I said, obviously the quarantine number, we can't put a number, we don't know where that goes every week. And having a child go through the quarantine piece, and it was very smooth transition from on-site to virtual for those 2 weeks, then to go back. We dealt with Beth Hosteller, and she did awesome. So, I just think the teachers now, the virtual teachers, I think have it down. And so I get we've got low numbers here, but I also think too, they're getting really good at it. And so when we have kids go back and forth, it's even best to kind of keep that transition smooth. But I do think that we keep an eye on it. Those numbers are getting lower, which I think is awesome. I'm glad we're having more kids back in the classroom.
One thing, and I don't know if this is the time to discuss it or not, but I was asked to be part of a small Zoom session with the governor, and I didn't really know what it was, but what it was that they had 4 different sessions, and what they did was they brought together educators and parents and school board members. The session I was involved with, there was literally 7 people like myself. I was the only administrator in my group, but there was a school board member and the rest were parents, and then the other groups were the same. So they were very small numbers and everybody had the opportunity to speak. And it was all around how is school going during COVID. And I was able to share exactly what our story is. Nobody asked none of the panelists asked each other questions. They just had the time to totally speak and say what they wanted to say. The reason that I'm saying that, this is the story from a number of the people, and I'm assuming that my group would have been very similar to the other 3 that took place, is that the thought that we need to get kids back to school. Parents really shared. Now, we were an anomaly because we have been consistent the whole time. One of the students that spoke talked about they've been in 5 different ways, and he wasn't even into the 2nd semester yet. And I think in the next couple weeks with being in session now, I think in the next couple weeks, I think we're gonna hear something from the governor tomorrow night about getting kids back in school. What that's gonna mean for us, I don't know, but I think that whatever decisions are made this evening, I think we have to be prepared that there could be changes coming down the pike as whatever because there was a lot of angst in the discussion that I heard from parents around the state. And like I said, my gut feeling tells me that most of the discussions went that way.
I appreciate it. Thank you for,
Yep.
like I said,
I guess you have to look at it, do we think it's right that, the 2nd grade instructor has 3 kids and no. But I mean, it's,
We're in a
we
weird
might have
time.
5 tomorrow and 8 the next day, so, you guys manage it. I mean, that's what we hired you to do, go do your thing.
I
well,
mean,
the trade-offs, right? There's trade-offs, and that's not apparent when you just look at a number, but I appreciate Stacy's,
Yeah, I do too.
just in that, her explanation of it, and yours, Carrie, so.
well, and I think the thing that we do need to remember is if we have to come back and the governor says, we want school people in school 100% of the time. What does 100%, I hate to say this, I can't believe I'm even making this comment. What does 100% mean? Does it mean 100% on site? Does it mean that the way, but we're gonna still have a handful of kids. Whether we say we need to require a medical release or whatever of the kids that have to stay home. I'm just throwing these things, I'm not saying that's what we do, but are we gonna have to look at how we're doing this differently? But we are still going to have to educate those kids that are at home. And those are the kids that are for no reason of their own have to be home due to health issues, whether it's their own personal health or a family member's health. And I struggle with, we have to provide a rigorous education to those kids too. And I think we're gonna have to think outside the box and be willing to think, okay, because what we're doing right now is working. When you see other districts talking about test scores and plummeting scores, we are not seeing that. Now, we are seeing, just like a lot of, and Vic and Cindy can easily speak to this, are we seeing a larger number of failing course grades because we have students that have not engaged? Yes, we have, but our numbers compared to what a lot of districts are seeing are still vastly different. It's just different for us because we're not used to that. And so anyway, that's all I wanted to share.
Thank you.
I think it's great what we've done. Continue to do what we can do. You're right, we'll have to adjust potentially, but we'll deal with that when we deal with it. mitigation's the most important thing, and I think you can do that whether there's 18 or 23 in the classroom. Just gotta keep doing it.
Yeah.
Thanks to everybody for making it this far. I mean, I think we are doing great.
I agree. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Anything else on that topic? Announcement celebrations, Lindsay?
Anyone have any announcements or celebrations that you'd like to share with the group?
Good.
Okay.
We made it to 2000.
We made it 2021, that's that's a big, big piece here.
Yeah.
Board reports, real quick again, Thursday night, 6 o'clock, we have a closed session meeting with Trent and his team. It's gonna take some time. Work session, 6 o'clock. It's probably gonna take a few hours, so just everybody come, be fed, come and eat, so. And I think you all saw the emails too on the candidate pool and kind of what the plan is for that meeting, so.
So everything should be there on our folder.
Tomorrow I have the documents, so tomorrow I will focus on the closed session and get the documents in the Dropbox and send out the notices.
Perfect.
Right back here. Yep. All right, next item, Story County Conference Board Rep. Anyone have any interest?
Yeah, I've done it. I'll keep doing it.
You want to keep doing it?
Yep.
All right. So there's a couple things I got to talk to you about.
Yep, that's fine.
You want both Story County and
Yep,
City of
yep.
Ames? All right, Gail.
How did I have to go to the last meeting? Was it because you were in Florida?
No, they just sent out a terrible notice on it. If they want me to go to a meeting, they gotta give me some notice. I mean, seriously.
He's treating.
Go get him, Jeff.
Go get him, Jeff.
I think that's awesome.
All right, you got that, Gail?
Yep.
Jeff Mosman, all right. Jeff Mosman, Story County, City of Ames.
Okay.
Next item is, you all see in your calendar the proposed timeline we have for the 5-year instructional support program.
As you can see, next month we'd start the process. I just want to make sure that this is good with everybody. Okay, sounds good. I will let them know.
Perfect. And then, district valuations. You want to hit on that, Gail?
So, this year's 5.41%. And we trend 5%, that's in our, we're slightly above what we forecast. So it's great. We're on our, according to our forecast, on the target of what, a little bit above. So, and here's some historical things to look at. So I will use these numbers to go forward on working with our budget, which at the end of the month, I have a workshop. So in February, I'll bring back a somewhat of a draft of what the budget and what our property tax rate will be, just a draft. So this will start the process.
Heard anything on SSA then?
No, I mean, I've heard that now is the time that they can afford 4%. And it's really, but I say that, and then Lindsay comes back and says he heard maybe 2
2 to 3.
3.
Yeah, it's always, it's kind of.
It's
a room.
negotiations.
It's like who to talk to,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it could look different because addressing increased expenditures, maybe giving us some extra authority. They also talked about, and I'm just throwing some things that have been talked about, maybe have a second count, or giving us the opportunity to count our kids that weren't there on October 1.
Yeah.
As like, well, we said second semester, we're seeing 10, possibly come back. So we could see a lot of different things, but we always promote higher SSA because in the future, it's always a percent and it builds. So that's the best, but, so maybe 2 to 3, we would hope for more than that, but she's supposed to set that. I mean, was it the first 60 days or first 30 days?
That was in January. I mean, not
So, financially, things are looking good. So this is considering the situation, so.
Do you have any questions on that? Anybody? Thanks, Gail. That was good to have increasing numbers. Old business, we have a second reading, possible motion to waive the third reading Deb, you want to hit on these
Yeah.
policies quick?
Yeah, thanks, just a second. I'm gonna go to the summary and changes because that's just easier for
Yep.
me to look at. So these are our every 5-year updates, and you'll see there's really only, I believe, 3 that had any changes at all. Which is good, because that means we're in line with the school board and what they're recommending. The first one was really pretty small, 303.1, we simply, we needed to add that we have a assistant vice principal at the high school to the administrative positions policy. And then kind of a fill in the blank, if you will, for 303.6, which is administrative evaluation. I guess there's a choice that you have between the board or the superintendent doing those. Of course, the superintendent is what we had in the past and what we're recommending. Lastly, the other significant, or the other change that I would call out is on 705.1, which is purchasing and bidding. And there's three additional paragraphs, which is in the side-by-side summary, which they recommend that we add, which is just, I think, further detail. The significant change that I would call out here is the change in the threshold that we recommended the last time. So the superintendent would have the authority up to 25,000, a change that's currently at 10. And then we would request bids for 25,000 to, I'm sorry, let me change that. The next step would be 125,000, which we would require RFPs, right?
Right.
But in between there is the bidding where we look for bids, so.
And this is only goods and
Goods and
services. We
services.
still have the obligation for increase of our, what do I want to say? Buildings and grounds improvements.
Improvements.
Yeah.
And we've checked this also through our legal counsel to make sure everything's okay there. I think Gail shared with you last time, or maybe it was only, was it the whole board or was it just our committee?
I shared it in the Dropbox at the summer, or when I did the summary of
Right.
our area schools.
Yep, so there's a variety that's out there, but this is what we've honed in on.
So just recommending that we accept these as proposed.
Can you just clarify the numbers again? Those were
Yeah.
a little confusing to me.
The way it's written in here, I would propose that we change it just to include the actual amounts rather than the increases.
Oh,
Because they did like what it was before,
here's,
changing it,
let me pull up the actual policy.
and in
Oh,
reality,
I
it
see
should
now.
be.
Yeah,
see what
it's-
it is.
I had the same thing about 2 hours ago. I texted Deb, Deb, what? Yeah, then it.
That's
Gotcha.
not, so I would
Just
recommend
put
that
what
we
it
just
should
put the
be.
chart, yeah,
Yeah.
just put
Yeah.
the amounts, don't change that,
Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah.
So,
It's the way it's done, just a second from the bottom. I'm not getting sick or anything with that.
just don't look at it.
There it is.
Yeah, so we've got it.
Up
Correct,
to
it was.
25,000,
Yeah.
and 25,001 up to 125.
125,
Yep, good.
yeah. So that was just the way it was, I guess, in that summary, but. So, I honestly, like I said, those are minor changes with the exception of the, increased amounts, but we recommend those as.
Move approval and waive the third reading.
Second,
any further discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed? All right, yeah, we are waiving the third reading and all those were approved.
Does that also include 602?
No, we'll do the second one on that one. Sorry, I'll do the second one on that one.
So, yeah, the second one here is, this is an actual, it's a new one.
Right.
And this is using federal funds and procurement contracts. So if you were to look at the summary of this, it lists the guidelines that we need to follow if we are receiving federal funds, such as making sure that there's obviously no conflict of interest, making sure that we are looking to include businesses that are from diverse backgrounds, et cetera, things like this. And I'm sorry, that's a goal, but it just lists several high-level requirements, and it's not, we don't really have a choice to
If we
say
receive
this one
federal
and not
funds,
that
we have
one,
to
this
have-
is just a policy as written, so. But it is brand new. And we are recommending it exactly as it's written.
Won't change it.
So is there any money coming with it?
And then, no, just if there was money coming with it,
Yeah.
that's how we have to use it,
We have the
Great, let's
policy.
write a law just in case.
yeah.
Jeez. Only in America.
And we would recommend that to be approved as written.
I'll make a motion to accept and approve.
And waive the third.
Yeah, that'd be fine with me.
Second.
Further discussion? In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Okay.
Third reading is waived and the motion passed.
Thanks you guys for all your
Yeah.
help on that.
No problem. Good job, Debbie.
Randy?
Construction update. We have the
I think
Adam
Adam's there, and Sam.
Sam on quick updates here, a couple change orders as well.
Yep, so there's a three there of change directives, as well as the official change order for ACI, and then some final papers and pay applications, including retention on core structural services and ACI mechanical.
Motion to approve the change order for ACI for $936.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the change order is approved for ACI mechanical for $936. And then also, next one is the final payment for both ACI and core structural.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, those are approved. Now, quick update on the athletic fields, all the stuff on the ground.
Adam, I did ask, we have a new person that we have that we've hired I don't know, a couple months ago. His name is Brent Randolph. So Brent's in also there. He is the outside of the turf specialist that we have. I want to make sure that he's aware of what we're doing. So if you're wondering why you maybe see a different face up there, that's why. But Adam, I think that between you and Sam, you guys are going to talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, I'll just walk through, I'll say the plan and what we've done since last time. Sam and I got together and brainstormed the options that the district had moving forward. After those reviews, as well as some time that Sam spent with legal counsel, it appears the easiest way forward is to request a deduct from Iowa Athletic. That would be for work not completed. We then, or the district then, would ask and request a price or a bid from another contractor to finish that work. At this point, we don't have the deduct and we don't have the add, but those are in the works and we are expecting those prices to be forthcoming. The gentleman that we talked to about doing the work is up for it, and it would just take him some time to look at the documents. Ultimately, he would like to see a little bit of snow melt so he could get out there and take a look at the fields, but he would be able to offer a price even if the snow does not melt. Our hope is that the deduct from Iowa Athletic will be bigger than the amount of price or the pricing from the contractor to finish the work. That is our expectation. And my opinion is it should be that as well. Iowa Athletic is amenable to offering that deduct, and they are working on it. So we did not get any resistance from them at all when we had that discussion. You know, the current state out there right now, it's winter time. There's no work that can be done at this point to do anything. As we move forward, we're essentially waiting for some pricing and then waiting for spring and temperatures to warm up. I know when Lindsay had a discussion with one person that he was explained the status of the fields out there. He understood where it was and felt that he could get it to a point that it would be playable for this coming season. So that was good news with the person that Lindsay did touch base with.
Yeah, I don't want to, I want you to realize too that we have Brent. Brent has a turf background in this. The concern that we talked in just a small group is Brent will also have other things that he has to do as we move into the spring. And he's a very capable person, but I don't want to try to tie him up too much and not have him do the other things. The person that you're asking about, Jeff, yes, we've done some work with them before and had positive results.
Has Brett looked at the field?
Brent has been, Brent, I don't know if you're there. I know that you were in the October meeting. Were you in any of the others, or do you have any comments on that?
I was just in the October meeting, and that was basically right when I was transitioning into the position. So, I'm still pretty new to that, but what we did discuss was that the playing field wasn't necessarily up to par, and just basically seeing where we were going to be at for next year.
I'm very comfortable with what Adam and Sam have described, and I think Brent can be a great addition to augment whatever we're doing, right? Because it seems like a couple times it would have been nice to have somebody here to just follow up on some things. So
Yep.
Brent, that would be great to have Brent on board for that.
Sam, did you have anything that you wanted to add to it?
No, I don't have anything new necessarily. I think it's a good positive direction. We'll move along from Iowa Athletic to a different company. And so I think that in itself just gives everybody a peace of mind that we're going to get some people out there to do the work and get it ready to play this season. So everyone's confident that can happen at this point, including Tim West, who we worked with, who our representative from Snyder and Associates, the civil engineer and landscape architect. So everything kind of worked out. And so like Adam said, the last two pieces are those two numbers that we'll compare and look at. But if it all goes according to plan, we should be in great shape.
Game plan that we have right now.
I have just a quick question.
Sure.
You said, understand the plan. I thought that they said we needed to bid to a new contractor, but then in listening to you talk, it sounds like the next one is already.
I don't believe that. My understanding, talking to our legal counsel, is we wouldn't have to bid that out.
It'd fall under goods and services. She felt, we've already talked to legal.
It's under the 25.
Yeah.
That's what we're hoping. It's under snow now.
We have new amounts now. So she felt that she was good with whatever we did. So I think to simplify things and keep things moving, if she was good with goods and services, we're gonna throw it into that.
Okay. I just wanted to.
So I mean, the perfect world would be the deduct would be equal to the new contract, but boy, good luck on that.
That's true. I just wasn't
Yeah.
sure if that, we're paying out.
I think the thing I would go back to is make sure our focus is to play on these fields this year. Even if the deduct doesn't equal the new contract, get that back to Lindsay right away, so he can take care of it, because we want these fields ready to go.
Right.
Yep.
And that's a great observation, Jeff. I mean, what we told the new contractor is, okay, regardless of what state you find it in, because it's a varied state, we want these things ready to go by this coming season, and that's what he's pricing for us.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah,
very happy with the update as well.
Yeah, very happy.
I think it's a great plan, and I said,
Good job.
Get the numbers back and go from there. But thank you, Adam. Thank you, Sam.
Welcome.
Not a problem.
Anything else? Anybody else on that topic? Next one, consider for recommendation to continue remote Wednesdays through March 12th. Now, as kind of Carrie mentioned earlier, this is all pending what the governor comes down with. So obviously we can react to that as need be. And I'll just kind of start off by saying, I think that spring break is just a nice kind of midpoint. I know it's not the actual midpoint, but we're gonna have a break anyways for a week, kind of get there, recalculate. I do believe where we decide tonight, I believe next board meeting, our February meeting, we should decide then kind of the remainder of the year, then after spring break. That'll give us another 30 days to kind of gauge where we sit from remote learners, how the pandemic's doing overall, vaccinations. So again, that's why I think maybe just do a plan through March, kind of reset, and then where we decide for the remainder of the year.
Well, I think we should talk about it for 3 hours and then have it changed tomorrow. That's the approach I like.
I'm comfortable with us keeping it the way it is. I agree with the idea of reevaluating next month, and I just encourage the admin team to continue to look at it, that it doesn't have to be everybody's the same. So building by building is how we could look at it if we needed to, and I, for one, certainly think that by March, we could be considering some different approaches, but very comfortable with approving what we've got tonight for through the spring break.
The one thing that I would say, I would echo Tyler's comments, the one thing that I would say though is I was a little bit disappointed to hear, I saw that they didn't expect vaccinations for the teachers until April.
That's just a guess, so.
It's a guess, and I guess it's extremely frustrating. I'm not pointing that at any one person at all, I understand, but, you know, if we need to get these kids back in school, it sure would be nice if we could get that figured out and get the essential workers that need that vaccination taken care of. So the fact that we won't, hopefully we'll hear more about that, and maybe that will even come before, but.
We need to approve this then? Move to approve the recommendation to continue remote Wednesday until March 12th.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passed. Wednesday will-
For seconds today.
Yeah, that's good.
You would have told me in August, we would get from August to March, and we haven't got there yet.
Yeah.
No way.
It's kudos back to the
You
district.
guys have done a great job.
Yes. Yeah.
Doing well. Next item is authorized district's administration to submit a request to the school budget review committee in the amount of $324,000 for a modified supplemental amount for the 21-22 dropout prevention program. I'm not going to keep reading.
We do this every year.
Every year.
Yeah, we do this every year, just a summary of what the program, majority of it is staffing that we do, is in our budget. So it increases to FTE for students. So there's a slight increase because of students. And this is a combination of funding of mostly property taxes, a little bit of state aid with that.
Move approval.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Where was the second?
Deb.
It's second down now, it's
Just
Deb
Deb.
tonight.
All those opposed? All right, motion passed. Again, I'm not going to read 7.05. It's,
Okay, they're really tiny, but let me just explain. 705 and 705-6, we have students that attend Woodward Granger. So they give us the authority to do a cash reserve, to do an SPRC, and we know we maximize all of our cash reserve. So this is basically gives us the authority to SPRC for that small portion of sending our students there, because we get charged tuition for those students, and we have 4 students.
For our audience, Gail, would you say what SBRC is an acronym for?
It is School Budget Review Committee for the administrative cost for Woodward Academy Day School. And then 706 would be at School Budget Review Committee, SBRC, for modified allowable growth for the administrative cost for Grandwood.
Thank you.
Students.
Move approval of 705 is written.
Second.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion pass.
Move approval of 706 is written.
Second.
John got that one. Further discussion?
Just keep going.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Bus bid 7.07, you can see the bids in your packet.
We really only have one.
We only have one because one came in late.
Is that what that note was? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And it was emailed, so it was perfectly, had time stamped on it, and it was specifically.
So let me ask, do we need a motion before we talk about it? Because we're
No,
gonna.
talk about it right now.
Who do we buy our last bus from?
Thomas usually gets the bid.
Okay, and so what changed that they didn't get the bid in on time?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, if we buy all our
I'm gonna
buses,
go with COVID.
yeah, if we buy all our buses from one person, why would we want to switch?
But the recommendation from the transportation department is the Bluebird. So
That's the one that they would,
Yeah,
they
that's
would
why.
prefer
Because of different features or?
now you're gonna get technical, was it the engine?
Yes.
Okay,
Talk to me.
Bruce just likes the bid that we got on this one because the engine is a little bit bigger. We spec it, but this is a little bit bigger in size, and he feels that it's a better built bus. I'm not saying anything against the opposition there, but he would prefer that we go with this one.
The Bluebird.
yeah, and in the past, he's always preferred Bluebird, but they've always came in higher, between 2,000 to 3,000 higher, and, or even more than that. This time they're a little bit closer, but it's a bid, so it needs to get in on time.
I'll move approval,
Which one?
the Bluebird.
Yeah.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Got a new bus coming. Mark that off.
Bus barn next.
7.08, first reading of early graduation. And now, I might, if, Vic, if you're on, I'm gonna ask for a couple comments on this quick, but I guess how we have it read today is you have to have a written, actually, Vic, if you're on, why don't you just go walk through it? You and I discussed this at length.
Yeah, can everybody hear me okay? I can't hear anyone else, so hopefully you can hear me. Okay, so there is a written application portion. The student that applied was not aware of this. She's currently a remote learner, so has not been around the building, has worked very hard to do all she can to get all of her credits done by the end of the first semester, and she has done that. The deadline was September, although when you kind of look back through it, there's really no reason it needs to be September. It could be as long as it's by the end of the first semester would be my thought. Board policy says September. I don't really see any reason to deny it or hold her to that, as she has met all graduation requirements. As I've checked with Paul Jacobson, I feel very comfortable with allowing her to graduate early. She has some plans to travel abroad and do some studying and things, and that's just my thoughts. And I would also suggest that maybe we consider, looking at that board policy and adjusting that date for seniors.
Well, where the first reading is today there, I guess.
Because this was actually, so when that request came in, I
Right.
just checked, when that request came in, it caused us to go back and look.
Right.
And there was an update to the IASB, and our policy is not in alignment with that. So you'll see right beside it, that we really, if they meet the requirements, they meet the requirements.
So our recommendation is to go ahead with IASB's
Yes.
latest policy. It's the first reading, so you don't have to approve anything. But Vic then kind of gave you the history about what you're gonna have coming up here. Not too long.
Yeah, they're just, it doesn't make any, I mean, I don't know where September came from. I'm sure there was a reason, but I mean, if they meet the requirements, they can graduate.
Right.
So that again was just a first reading. Any comments, discussion, thoughts on that from anyone? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. 7.09, I'm gonna actually have Gail walk through this one because she knows it a lot better than I do.
Well, we were thinking that maybe something was going, as you know, that the Family First Act was going to expire on December 31st. And so we thought maybe with a new stimulus that something would come out, and there was nothing attached to extend the leave. And so basically it's up to local control, is where we sought legal counsel on this. And so what you're seeing, we also went and we gathered information from other school districts. There was questionnaires going on, and from what we gather, it looks like maybe I'm going to say things where there was a lot of undecision, but I think what it boils down to is districts are either going to let it expire December 31st and let them use their current sick leave, or they're going to extend it to March 31st and eliminate the family leave portion of it and only do the sick leave, because what the main point is taking care of employees so they don't come to work sick. The family leave portion is only for the closure of daycare and closure of schools. that the district would provide 2 weeks of 2/3 pay. It looks like most school districts are not going to continue that. So we're following with our recommendation tonight would be to just extend the emergency paid sick leave, which is 2 weeks. And basically, they don't start over. So if somebody hasn't used it, they haven't exhausted it, they have another 2 weeks. So with that being said, and come back, we've had kind of our support staff has been have been very active with this COVID things lately. We are still working with staff to work remote when we can, and sometimes we can't. So we just want to take the emergency paid sick leave portion of that act and extend it to March 31st. Now, they think that this will probably be addressed when after January 20th. But for now, just so we can give our employees some direction that the December 31st, only for the paid sick leave portion, would be extended to March 31st.
Move approval of the resolution.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passed. And then financial update.
So December for bills were a little bit lower than it has been for a month. We were kind of slow on bills, but when I was digging into, I mentioned that this, we have a few more lines that are gaining momentum of underspending, kind of like leveling out a little bit. Now, is that because December was kind of a slow month, or are we leveling out as a whole? I guess that's we'll know that the further along we get in the budget. And so I wanted to mention the biggest thing that popped out to me was building and grounds. And I checked that out, and the gas and electricity bill was not paid in December. It wasn't paid till the 1st of January, so it didn't hit December. So those are big bills. So when you back those out, we're still under budget for building and grounds, which usually we're over budget on a monthly.
The snow thing has been much, much better.
So-
I think, just kind of at the right time, I think, too.
So we have line 1, instruction, but then we have some under budget spending on the next 3 lines. What we're seeing, a lot of support staff are not working on Wednesdays, so we're seeing some efficiencies there. We're seeing, so maybe, as the year goes, we'll see, possible some leveling out of that. But that's just some changes. It's the first time buildings and grounds has been under budget since September. So that was good news, even with adding, the gas and utilities on there.
And water.
And water, $6,000.
Wait till we get our own well, you'll see that thing plummet.
That's right.
So, but then I also wanted to know, okay, how do we compare this we're 50% through the budget year, so how do we compare to a non-COVID year? And you know what? We're not much different. On the revenue, last year at this point in time, revenue was at 44%. We're at 43. It seems like our revenue is a little lagging a little bit, but, and I believe, our property tax, our revenue is lagging. Property tax is lagging, but not bad compared to what it was a year ago. And expenditures were at 36.74, 50% weight. Last year was 35. So you know what? We're not clear out of the ballpark for a COVID year. So I just thought that was kind of interesting for 50% halfway through. So that's good. And then the COVID expenditures, just put some information here. I will tell you that I'll share. Here's I only have 3 school districts, and one of those is my information. So I sent this out to my card. Nobody wants to fill it out, but I would tell you we are the top line.
Yeah.
local school is the second line, and then another school about 30 miles away is the third line, much smaller than we are.
Ames. So Ames is the second one.
So anyway, that's kind of where we're at just for COVID expenses. We're tracking these because, as you can tell, I included some information about the
Relief.
ESSER number 2. That, so we just were provided information today. I logged in to submit claims for our second quarter, and lo and behold, we had our second round of money sitting there for us, $107,000.
Wow.
So,
1/3.
so we have
22, is that up from 22 the last time?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
That's good.
so far, we've received $18,400 for gear, which was technology devices. And then $23,400 for ESSER 1. And then this is $107,104 for ESSER 2. So we will receive $148,905 of federal funds. We have a little bit of state revenue in there, a little bit, not much. I think it was like around 10,000. That's considered state. But linked to COVID, I have a meeting Thursday with Ann Lebo. The thing is we need to make sure what are the claims that we can submit for this $107,000. We got to make sure we meet all of our requirements, and then we have plenty of expenses we can submit. Mitigation, salaries. So we just need to make sure we meet our requirements, and then we definitely have, and it's a claim submission, so they do it quarterly, and so every quarter you submit what your claims are, and then you get a reimbursement check.
That's good.
Nice.
That's really good.
So that's about it.
So this, you have over here delinquent, you can see my screen. Have delinquent property tax.
Yeah.
Can you pull that up?
Against your knock on doors yet?
No, I want to know how to read this. So it says delinquent taxes 26.76.
Yeah.
What is that of?
Okay, see that fiscal year 20, we're behind 54,000.
Yeah,
To date, we've collected 14,000. So we've
okay.
collected 26.76%. Yeah, so fiscal year 20, June 30th, we ended short 54,000. To date, we've collected 14 of that 54.
Yep. Or 40.
I think that's when we go to Jimmy's VP, we'll start. A
Yeah,
little concerned that you might come visit.
yeah, they're getting ready to run out.
and they learned how to move
Now, for bills, January is a big bill month. We have all of our tuitions, open enrollment, all of our special ed tuitions. And we will also be receiving too, but it's a big year. January and June are big collection and disbursements.
That's good, Gail. I feel good about it.
Go find another 107,000 next month.
That was easy,
Yeah,
right? And we'll see.
it's good to hear.
Probably more probability than maybe 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Any other thoughts on the financial reports? John, you got any comments on those?
No, look good.
Happy with them?
Yeah, thanks.
Good.
Thanks for all the color.
Consent agenda. Anything need to be pulled or discussed?
Move to approve.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, consent agenda passed. Calendar, again, Thursday, January 14th, we will have a special closed work session here at 6 o'clock with Trent and his team to narrow down the candidates for the superintendent search. And we'll have another meeting on the 25th at 1 o'clock. And I believe that is going to be part of the interview process, if I remember correctly. So that'll be most of the afternoon screening. Yep.
And both are in this room.
Both will be in this room.
Right.
Yep. And then February 8th, we have a regular board meeting, 6 o'clock, and then the formal interviews will be on Wednesday, February 17th. Again, we changed the date on that.
And if you see something on the 18th, that's a snow day.
Snow day.
Got it. Did we want to talk at all about, on that 17th, we talked about touring the candidates that are here. And do you want to get any feedback for
I say let's wait till Thursday on that. I think that's, part of that is we're gonna do the whole formal interview teams too on Thursday. And so maybe I think on that day, we should discuss all that as well. The formal interview, just kind of hit all one. And who's gonna be on which interview teams, who's gonna do their tours, and we just hit all that room
Sounds good.
on Thursday, so,
You should
Move
be
to adjourn.
expecting, information regarding that tomorrow.
okay. All right, move to adjourn. Deb, a second.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You get
All
another
right.
gold star, Andrew.
We are,
Which one does it?
it is before 7 o'clock.